Hey there, true believers. This is James along with Reggie. Hey, Reggie, say hi.
Hey.
Tonight, we're going to be going through an issue of Avengers. We're going to briefly discuss Ultron, Age of Ultron, but not too much. Um, we've already done a review of this. This is going to be on Reggie's take. Go ahead and explain that real quick,
Oh,
Reggie.
yeah, James, you were on my podcast, my 10th one, discussing Age of Ultron. Yeah, we give some things away, but we don't give too much, I don't think.
Oh, no, it's spoiler heavy. I think we pretty much talk about the whole movie. It's spoiler heavy, but the way I see it is,
If you
as of
haven't seen
right
it,
now, it's been 2 weeks.
if
And
you haven't seen it by now, what the hell is your problem?
yeah, I always feel like after a couple weeks, don't blame anyone for spoilers.
It'd be one thing if it was the day after it opened.
Yeah.
But then there are some people out there who do that.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're called bad people. They're awful, awful people. I'll never forget. I did not see the first Avengers opening night. I'm getting older.
I never go see a movie the opening weekend.
It's been a long time since I've seen one opening night. Usually, a lot of times I'll see it opening weekend if I can, but if I can't, whatever.
My rule of thumb is anything like Avengers or like even the upcoming Star Wars, if it's opening on a Friday, I'll wait till at least the following Friday before I go see it.
With Avengers, I waited till Monday. I didn't see it opening weekend. I think it was Monday before I saw it.
I don't like crowds at the movie theaters.
But the first Avengers, I stayed away from the internet. I was like, I don't want any spoilers. I went on Facebook to check my messages, and a friend of mine posts, "Holy cow, they introduced Thanos. That's so awesome." And I was like,
damn it.
fuck you. I unfriended him immediately. I didn't unfriend him. I just hit his post. He's actually a really nice guy. It's just like, God.
Have you seen
Avengers? Yes, I have. No,
cool. Have you seen the 6.5 minute preview of Supergirl?
No, I saw that you posted that earlier.
Actually, for what it is, it doesn't look half bad.
Is it a TV show?
Yeah, Supergirl. It's gonna air on CBS.
Let me guess. It's going to have nothing to do with the Man of Steel movies because that's what.
No,
DC
they actually
does.
reference Superman.
Are they really?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
they actually reference Superman. It looks fairly interesting. My only issues with the show itself is it's on CBS, and not that I'm dogging CBS. It's just they're more known for their crime dramas and their comedies about nerds than they are this type of show.
Yeah.
To me, this type of show really needs to be on the CW, where those shows are succeeding. But on the same argument, if they follow what Arrow and Flash are doing on the CW as far as that premise for Supergirl, then it might be all right.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I know CBS hasn't ordered too many shows up with it, and I don't think it's debuting in September. But anyway, I'm just kind of surprised they're really going with it.
Yeah. Supergirl's actually a great character.
Well, this show can only improve what the movie just completely destroyed of Supergirl.
I've actually seen that movie.
I have too, and there's 2 hours I can't get back.
Earlier in our last podcast, in the one that I did on Reggie's show, we got on a tangent about Man of Steel, and I was complaining about Man of Steel. Man of Steel is not a bad movie. Supergirl is a bad movie. Superman 4: The Quest for Peace is a bad movie. I'm not sure what I'm going to say. Superman 4 is worse than Supergirl, though.
Ooh, see on my book, they're almost on the same plane in my book.
It's close. I think with Supergirl,
okay,
I've always viewed that as like
a
Superman 4 Sunday afternoon, like on local TV.
I will give Superman 4 the edge for 2 reasons only: Christopher Reeve, and Gene Hackman. Only reason why.
Okay. On that note, Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman are in a really bad movie. It's like it almost makes it worse. Like that movie is really bad.
Well, first of all,
that's what bad movies are.
That's what happens when you let the star of the franchise write the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Christopher Reeve, that was his idea, his whole storyline. He basically wrote the script. It sucked.
It's
same way in Star Trek. Star Trek V, they let Shatner write the script and direct the movie. Star Trek V sucked.
The other problem with Superman 4 though was it was bought by what Globin, what was the name of that company?
I don't know.
Globin Global or
It
something.
wasn't released by the...
It was, yeah, they were a company that was known for making C grade level horror movies.
But didn't Christopher Reeve have something to do with buying to be able to do that sequel? Because I don't
he
think...
was, well, his contract was he had to write at least a version of the script in order to, I don't know if it had to be the final draft, but it had to be a draft of the script in order to get him on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did, because I don't think they even paid him, because that movie is pretty darn cheap. Like
The special effects on it suck.
Well, when he's flying, they're using footage from the first one.
See, it's been so long since I've seen that movie for a reason
gosh,
that
I've actually only seen that movie once. And what's funny is, like, I guess when I was a kid, I always thought that Superman 4 was just a joke. Like, I was confused. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was just, like, this bad joke.
Yes, Hollywood played a joke on everybody, and it's called Superman 4.
I saw it in college. I think I was just freshly turned 21. And after watching that movie, I looked at my friend. I was, like, incredibly angry. Like, I've never been that angry after seeing a movie. Like, I was like, I need to drink now. Like, that movie is just so bad.
Okay, if Superman 4 was a joke, the movie company has not come out yet and said April Fools.
They should have 20 years ago. Like, holy cow, that's
and the sad thing for Christopher Reeve, may he rest in peace, is that was his last appearance as Superman.
That's right.
Not a good way to be remembered as Superman.
That's right. Yeah, that was his last. I mean, even though he was on Smallville when he was in a wheelchair,
but still,
he wasn't Superman.
No.
By the way, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Smallville sucks too. Like that show. Like, I still can't believe that show went on for like 10 seasons.
Yes, 10 seasons.
Like, and my friend swears, he's like, no, it gets really good in the 10th season. And it's like, well, like, that kind of takes too long. Like, I actually, I'm not going to lie, I really liked it in the first season. But after the first or second season, I was like, oh, man, this show's lame. So I quit watching it. And then 5 years later, my friend was like, hey, just bought season 6 on DVD. I was like, what? That show's still on? Like, who would have guessed?
Well, I know this is completely off topic of what we normally would talk about either on your podcast or my podcast, but I wanted to post something on that whoever owns the rights to it is putting out the original Battlestar Galactica show on Blu-ray, finally.
Blu-ray?
Yes.
So you can see those bad chrome colors in full HD?
Yes.
Ooh.
But then again, if you didn't have the crappy Battlestar Galactica show, you never would have gotten the
good one.
The good one, done by.
I've seen the first. They had it on. I think they still have it on Netflix. I've seen the first episode.
Actually, it got taken off Netflix earlier.
The old one or the new one?
The new one.
Oh, darn it! I was gonna rewatch it. Is it on Hulu?
That I'm not sure. You'd have to look at that.
Netflix keeps losing crap. Like, I remember when they used to have so many good movies.
From what I read,
they lose stuff all the time.
Netflix looks to be trying to dive in more to their own productions and own shows, other than
which is fine.
Other than getting some of the movies for a while.
Which is fine. It just kind of sucks that I'm gonna have to get something else like Hulu or Amazon or whatever.
Yeah,
like, it's like, ugh, God. But wow, that does suck because I was gonna rewatch that. That was a good show. I don't think I ever finished it, to be honest.
Because the only reason why I know that is I get emails from Netflix on my phone.
When is that going to be canceled? Or is it already?
It's gone. It was like gone in February or March or something like that.
Darn it.
Because the only reason I know is like, oh, you got 72 hours left to watch all the Battlestar Galactica before it goes away.
What sort of marketing is that? Like, hey, our lineup's getting crappier. Like, wow, Netflix, you guys suck. Like, your marketing guys suck. Anyway.
It's just a way of saying, hey, in 3 days you can kill our subscription.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean,
I guess it's better to let you know, hey, this show is going away or this movie is going away, than to sit there and assume it's still on, then search for it and spend 20 minutes to realize, oh, it's not on here.
I just remember they used to have so many good movies on their streaming, and I think around 2012, like a lot of that stuff got cut out.
Well,
They had
Warner Brothers walked away from him because Warner Brothers, the reason their excuse for walking away from Netflix was they were going to start their own streaming service.
and they never did.
As far as I know, they never have.
Well, they lost South Park, which isn't that big of a deal because South Park has their own.
Well, you can find all South Park on Hulu,
South Park Studios
on Hulu too.
That is funny, but like if you go to South Park Studios, which is Comedy Central owned, it's South Park. They have all their episodes online there. I love South Park. That's
the first 3 or 4 seasons were definitely the best.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
I like that. It's not
the
that I don't
first
like
3 or 4 seasons suck. Even the writers hate them.
Well,
they're terrible.
I still like South Park. I still like South Park, and there's still some episodes that just put me on the floor because I like their 3-episode arc they do of the kids being superheroes, and they kind of put up the comic book look.
That was really good.
I like that. I like that whole arc
the
of
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
No, like the first 3 or 4 seasons are terrible. Go back and watch them. Like seriously, go back and watch them. You'll be like, oh my god, this sucks. Like, ha ha ha. Barbara Streisand has a big nose. Like, no kidding. We all knew that. Like, ha ha ha. Oh, the lead singer from The Cure is in this for some reason. I guess that's funny. I don't know. Like, no, they got a lot. I would say season 5 is when they got good, and they've been really mostly consistently good ever since. Like, the thing about South Park is, like, they'll have a great episode, and then the next episode sucks. And it's just kind of the nature of the way. Like, they make that show in 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a regular TV show where
produced,
it takes like Simpsons, Simpsons or Family Guy, an episode
takes 9 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Speaking of Simpsons,
yes,
they were picked up for 2 more seasons.
Oh, yeah, did you also hear? They also lost Harry Shearer,
voice of Smithers and Mr. Burns.
That's bad. That's real bad.
But they say they're going to go on with the same characters. But
okay, that brings up an old joke from The Simpsons way back. I don't remember what season. It's probably like season 6 maybe, where they were talking about cartoons, and Homer's like, Lisa, it's just a cartoon. You can do whatever you want in cartoons. And then Ned Flanders walks. I don't know why Ned Flanders is in the house, but it's The Simpsons or whatever. But Ned Flanders walks by, and a totally different voice, which I think might have been Billy West's voice, goes, and you can change the voice of the character without anyone diddly knowing. Diddly do. And it's like, it was really funny because the voice is obviously like
well, they
wrong.
changed.
But now they're gonna, like, now that joke has prophesized itself. It's coming true.
Well, my guess is you'll see less of those characters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they may replace someone to get. They may take 2 or 3 people to replace them, but
what's really interesting is like they could have done less of those characters, but then made them made Harry Shearer like a guest star. But it sounds like he didn't even want to do that.
Well,
so
the article I read this morning said that they even offered him to do his lines by phone at his convenience. And he even turned that down.
I'm guessing, like,
I'm guessing he was tired. I'm guessing.
I think so too. I think those characters. I think he probably, and you get this with artists. I mean, like, the fact of the matter is, Simpsons. Most of their writers have left years ago. Most of the original writers left years ago, and it does kind of get to the point where, like, I'm sure he feels like I don't know what else I can do with these characters.
Right.
Like everything I do is just kind of phoning in at this point. And that I'm sure,
okay.
Either that or it could be like some sort of office politics, which I hope isn't true. But I would imagine that what you said is correct. Like he's probably just has lost the characters at this point, which is understandable. It's been 25 years.
Well, actually, this new thing will take him up to through 28 or 29 seasons now.
Yeah,
and it's like I realize The Simpsons and Family Guy are technically 2 of their stronger shows on Fox, especially on Sundays. And I get they're animated. The actors technically never age, at least on screen. But at some point, you got to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've already lost Marsha Wallace, who was one of the great comedians of her generation to be true, to be sure. And now they're
Well, they
losing
also lost
him.
what's his face in the
Well,
90s.
years
Yeah.
ago, Phil Hartman.
Yep.
They were able to recover from that because the show was still fairly young.
Now I can understand losing voice actors who pass away.
Yeah, but
I can
when people
understand
start quitting, you might want to
want to
start
start
wrapping it
that
up.
up.
I don't know. It's a weird thing because, like, it's just like these comic books. Like, I mean, they've been around forever. Like, totally different artists, totally different writers, but they just keep going. But with Simpsons, it's kind of different. Like, it just because I mean, it is a show. Like,
Right.
it's not just a book; it's a show. Um, Maybe they do need to just quit and make it just movies. And let's be honest here. First off, the show jumped the shark so long ago that it's like in some other realm of shark jumping, like which is like it's beyond shark jumping. Like it's become like greater a show greater than it could have than anyone could have ever imagined. And I'm not saying that as a I'm not saying that as a
Mm-hmm.
diss. I'm not saying that as an insult. Um, but I mean that is the case. The other thing too though is ever since the show went HD, which I think was might have been the season directly after the movie, it's been a very different show. And I don't think it was just the switch to HD. I think it was a gradual change, but it's noticeable when they switch to HD. The animation is very different. The storytelling is very different. The jokes are different. Like, they've kind of gone back to the family center, which was kind of the main spiel probably in the first season, and they've kind of stuck with that. It's a very different show than it was.
I think that that's where the writers or the producers of Simpsons have got to say, look, we may be renewed for 2 more seasons, but let's say this season we're going to end it, and just to make the fans happy, come the following fall, hey, there's going to be another movie out in theaters, so you won't be completely without.
I would like that.
You know,
there was a time when I was, and this is even before the movie and before it went HD. Like I quit watching it in college. I thought it was lame at that point. I was like, man, it's been on 10 years. Like, they need to quit or whatever. Not 10, probably 15 years. I'm not that old.
yeah, but who would ever thought
But
they'd gone this long?
the crazy part is though, those shows that I thought were lame, I went through the Simpsons marathon. I rewatched them. I was like, no, these are pretty good. Like, there's a bad episode like once a season around that point, but it's like, so what? Like, the rest of them are really good.
I found myself when FX was running that marathon.
Yeah.
I kept finding myself turning to it.
Yeah.
It's like oh, it's on.
It's
da-da.
the best show
but
ever made.
you kept finding yourself watching it, and before you knew it, 3-4 hours would go by, and you've watched 8 episodes.
And I'm gonna be frank. I keep saying that phrase. That's my favorite phrase today. But the fact of the matter is, I believe that a bad episode of Simpsons, even today, a bad episode of The Simpsons, is still there's still a good chance that it's going to be better than a decent episode of Family Guy. I honestly believe that. I like Family Guy. Don't get me wrong.
I still like Family Guy, but I think they've lost a little bit of their edge, and I don't know why. I don't know if they've exhausted their jokes, they're afraid of offending somebody, or what the case. But they've lost that certain edge.
Well,
it's like when you get a really good funny show,
yeah,
you go 4 or 5 episodes before you get another really good funny show again out of them.
Even when they had their edge, they were a fucking knock. Oh wait, it's my show. I can say it. They were a fucking knockoff of Simpsons and other better shows anyway.
Right.
Like, I mean,
regardless of knockoffs, but they've just
it was
lost.
still a good show, and it is a good show. I'm not saying it's not, but so anyway, we're gonna look at this Avengers. First off, let's briefly talk about the movie. We're not gonna go too much into it because we basically talked about it on Reggie's show. This is sort of like Marvel used to do, and DC does it too, but Marvel was real bad about catch this entire storyline, but in order to do that, you have to read Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and for some reason X-Men, and it's like, and it always cracked me up how like it's like, okay, I get it. Like with X-Men, you have different groups. Like you have the New Mutants, you have the X Factor.
Well, it's just like when I was collecting.
It's a spin-off. It makes sense. But with Spider-Man, their spin-off was Spectacular Spider-Man, which is still... So it's a spin-off starring the same character. It's like, what? What is that?
Well, it's just like when I was buying the Batman comic books in the 90s. You'd sit there and...
Yeah, there was Detective Comics, there's Batman, there's Batman and Robin.
There's Shadow of the Bat. And
oh, wow.
That's
really going back.
You know, and then you sit there and you get
World's Finest.
And then you sit there, to continue the story, you had to go to Robin number whatever. And then that one would go to oh God, it was something else, and it was just like before it ever got back to the one it started in.
Yeah, you're right. DC did that too, pretty bad.
So then you'd end up getting these odd collections. So even with my Batman comics, you go through Batman, Robin. Oh,
well, what's funny though is like they do that, but then
Nightwing.
but then like a few months later, they're just gonna release it all in a book.
Yeah.
And call it Nightfall or whatever. Or what was the Green Lantern one that was really good? The Blackest Night. It's like, all right, I'll just wait for the book to come out. No, I won't. I'm just going to illegally download it. Joke's on you, DC and Marvel. But I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that, NSA. Never. It's all a joke. But we're going to briefly go over Avengers. I gave it probably an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Like, I'd give it a B.
A. I don't know if I'd go any higher. A minus, maybe.
Yeah.
8.5 if you're going to go on the number scale.
Yeah. Which is pretty good, by the way. Like, I mean...
I'm not going to give it a 10. I mean... No. I don't think there's any superhero out there, maybe other than one, that should get a 10.
Dark Knight?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that should be the only one.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, because I would say the second best superhero movie would probably be Iron Man, and that one wouldn't get a 10. So, Iron Man or the Avengers. One thing we didn't talk about on your podcast, though, that I want to bring up is, do you remember when Avengers came out? And it started with Thor, to quote the Mandarin on Iron Man 3, which I think is like the best self-referential quote ever, is when he says, "Ever since the big guy with the hammer came down, subtlety's had its day." Which is really like not only like a critique of the Marvel universe, but like all the superhero movies. Like, I mean, before Thor and then especially Avengers, they were playing it kind of low key. Like, I mean, even as big as Spider-Man was, Spider-Man is only so big. But X-Men, like, they all wore these black costumes instead of their weird ones from the comics. There were no time-traveling robots back then, although that's come out now. Which X-Men is all about time-traveling robots, if you ever read the comics. Like, that's like their big thing. What else? The Dark Knight and Batman Begins totally was very cop. It felt like not cop, but like a detective drama. It was very set in a very real world, except in a made-up city. Even like Superman Returns, like he's not off fighting aliens or anything cool like we wanted. Like he's doing the same crap he was doing in the Christopher Reeves movies. I actually kind of like Superman Returns, but it's not great. All these movies were very afraid to go full on comic, and Thor was the first one where it was like, this is okay. Like, ignore Green Lantern. It sucks. Like, this is how it needs to be. And then Avengers just felt like you were watching a comic book, like full on. Avengers really did. Avengers 2 also does, but more so. And then you realize, oh yeah, comic books kind of don't make sense. Like, they're weird. Like maybe we should dial it back a little. I don't know if we should. I'm just saying, maybe there is a point where it's like maybe because like
But don't you think though the success of the comic book movies recently has been that kind of that tone of a little bit of realism and not just all straight comic book?
this one is pretty much straight comic book. Like there's very little realism in Age of Ultron.
Right.
Like it's out there. And I want to say like Ultron, I think Ultron's great. I had a friend that didn't. Did you like him by the way as a villain?
Ultron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he could have been better, but then
Yeah.
again, you could say that about almost any villain in any movie. Could have been better.
I thought he was great. I thought Vision was awesome.
I wanted to see, as we alluded to in mine, I wanted to see a little bit more tension between Stark and Captain America at the end.
Yes. That I think that's the big, after seeing the movie twice, that's the big problem is, once again, Stark screws up the world and, like, everyone still loves him.
Screwed it up, got his buddies to help him, and okay,
Yep,
we're good.
He's a hero and gets to retire now, and yeah, it's it's starting to get a little weird at this point. Also, like,
But do you think they're gonna work the line where maybe by the end of Avengers: Infinity War, where Stark's kind of theoretically in charge of Shield?
I don't know. I
You
don't
think
know
they'll
what
go
they're
that
gonna do. Honestly, I think if they're smart, I think I think honestly, Infinity Wars. I think if that is the very end of at least the Avengers as we know it, they're gonna have to kill Tony. Like honestly,
I would say if they kill anything of the original four, and when I say four, I mean Hulk, Thor,
yeah.
Cap, and Stark. I'd almost say this version of Captain America to be more likely to get knocked off than
because he's kind of a Jesus character,
then I
like
think
a martyr.
I think having Captain die at the end of the Avengers: Infinity War would be more likely, just because if they do follow somewhat any sort of the comics at all, you've got two potentials that they could move into his place and take over the role as Captain like they did in the comics, with the Winter Soldier and now Hawk.
See, I would really like this story to wrap itself up. Like that is, I know The Dark Knight Rises isn't everyone's favorite movie. Say what you will about it, it wrapped the story up.
Yeah.
And it wrapped it up pretty nicely, I thought. I'd like to see the Avengers get wrapped up. Like, I mean, and someone bigger than, spoiler alert, Quicksilver is gonna have to die.
Yeah,
Like,
that was the easy way out to kill.
it was a total cop out. Kill the new guy. Like,
to kill a hero and then you kill off the new guy you introduced at the beginning of the movie.
as a bad guy, by the way. Like, it's like, okay.
Yeah, he turned good, but you took the easy way out by killing him.
And we talk about it in your podcast. Thor or Hawkeye would have been a much better character to kill off.
Much more emotionally grab the audience. Not oh, well, we don't really know him that well, so no big deal.
Yeah. But anyway, I know, like, we're bitching and complaining about it. It's actually a really good movie. Seeing it twice was something that seeing it twice is important because there's so much story that you really got to go over it twice. But if you want to listen to us ramble on about that one, you're going to have to listen to Reggie's podcast and listen to me talk about a movie that I like, because that's the world that we live in now, is listening to other people talk about stuff that someone else made. Like, that's really the world that we live in now. It's a beautiful world. So anyway,
excuse my excursion.
oh, you're fine. You're fine. So anyway, we're gonna go over a very important issue of the Avengers, and I've been wanting to do this one for a long time. This is a big one. This is the Avengers issue 16. On the cover, you've got Captain America, and for some reason, maybe this is why people don't like Don Heck, because he doesn't make sense. But for some reason, there's like all these posters of other heroes like Iron Man and Thor, and like some of the bad guys like the Enchantress. and I don't know, it's a weird cover, but it says spectacular special issue, the start of a great new Avengers lineup. And Captain America yells his line, Avengers Assemble. And the title of this one is called The Old Order Changeth. Possibly the most memorable illustrated story you will read this year. And at the beginning, we start off. At this point, see the original characters in the Avengers were Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, Wasp, and Hulk.
Wasp was actually on the Avengers?
Wasp was one of the originals. They play her since she's a dame, since she's a girl, and this is the 60s. Initially, there was a lot of sexism in this, but a lot of that is just what the times. They kind of play her more as Ant-Man's girlfriend more than an actual Avenger, but she's on the team. They don't really give her full membership until a few issues later. I think Stan Lee got some. Stan Lee, I mean, he wasn't perfect when he started, but he was always trying to improve, like, stuff like that, like sexism and racism. He was always trying to improve that. And he didn't start off perfectly, but he does make improvements over the years, which is more than I could say about DC at the time. So you got to give him some credit. But by this point, they get Captain America. He joins in issue 4, I believe. And the Hulk leaves sometime. I'm not sure when he officially leaves. Like, he kind of leaves in issue 4, but he's still around for a while. So at this point, the original Avengers are Thor, Iron Man, Giant Man instead of Ant-Man. He added 2 letters to his name, and now he's Giant Man, Wasp, and Captain America. And see, the thing is, most of these characters, most of the reason why they're leaving is because they all had. It's kind of interesting. They all had their own books. Thor had Journey into Mystery. Iron Man had Tales of Suspense. Ant-Man and Hulk both shared Tales to Astonish. So they all had their own books.
Mm-hmm.
So Avengers really didn't make sense. It's like, so do they hang out together sometimes, or like when does this take place? Like, it doesn't make sense. And there's some other problems, like Iron Man. I can talk till I'm blue in the face all the problems with Iron Man back in the day. One of them is that he does not reveal his identity to the Avengers, which is pretty stupid. So, like, he has to pretend like he's an idiot whenever he's trying to fix something, like, so they don't realize he's Tony Stark. Even though Stark Industries owns the Avengers Mansion, like, it's really stupid. I mean, I know these books were for children, but this is just beyond dumb. So, like, I think there were just so many problems with them that Stan Lee decided to just get rid of them. So, like, right here, we've got some story. The Enchantress is, like, bothering them. Oh, also, another game changer with this one, they switch out artists. Jack Kirby, who's, like, probably more important to Marvel than Stan Lee in some ways. He did the art for he pretty much created all the characters all of the classic characters in the 60s except for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. I'm going to put an asterisk by Iron Man. He created Iron Man, but Steve Ditko, the guy who did Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, redesigned his costume to give it the red and gold one. So that one gets kind of an asterisk. But he pretty much created every character. X-Men, Thor, Fantastic Four, Hulk. I mean, you name them. Like, all of them were pretty much co-created by Jack Kirby. And this is the first issue where he leaves the Avengers. I think really what happened was I think they were able to hire more artists at this point, which was good because he was doing too much. And Avengers was always, up to this point, kind of a throwaway. The only, like, really important thing they did was reinstate Captain America as a character. Other than that, they were just kind of like just big, dumb adventure books that didn't really have any story to them. But Captain America changed everything for the Avengers. Like, now you had a character that had weight and gravitas. So it's like, get rid of these others. They're not really doing anyone any good. And let's make a new team starring Hawkeye, wearing his weird purple H costume. Don Heck wasn't the best at creating costumes. I'll say that. I like Don Heck. He's the new artist. But oh, speaking of which, there's Black Widow. That's what she looked like back then. She actually had black hair. She's been around since the beginning. I don't know when she joined the Avengers officially. She helps them out all the time in the 60s. She started off as an Iron Man villain, and then she ends up helping them in the 60s. There's a few episodes where she more or less is an Avenger. Like, they just hadn't officially brought her in yet. But she doesn't join, I think, because Stan Lee thought that she probably fit better off in Nick Fury, so he put her in S.H.I.E.L.D. instead of the Avengers. So she joined S.H.I.E.L.D., and then after that, she actually gets her own comic. They redesign her, give her red hair, her black outfit with the Widow hourglass belt that's so iconic in these movies. They do that, I think, around 69 or 70, and she gets her own comic. Funny thing is, she actually, during that costume change, that happens in Amazing Spider-Man. It's weird. And she's redesigned by the artist of Spider-Man at that time, John Romita Sr., who is one of my favorite artists. Like, and if he could do one thing, it was draw beautiful women. And I'm sure that's why they had him redesign Black Widow, because he made her like smoking hot. But it's a really weird issue because, like, she kind of beats up Spider-Man, and then she's like, I'm gonna make a new costume, and then the whole thing is like her just telling her own story and making a costume. Or it's not a costume; it's more like a battle suit, and that's it. And then it's the end, and Stan Lee's like, "Yeah, I know it's a little weird. This has just been one advertisement for the new Black Widow comic." But so yeah, like, she's been around since the beginning, and a lot of people don't know that. And like I said, when she officially joins the Avengers, I honestly couldn't tell you. I know she's been a guest star all throughout the 60s. She's a very important character. Her and Hawkeye have a romance in these days. I think she also has a romance with Daredevil later on. They're always short-lived. Daredevil's kind of a man slut, though. Like, Daredevil,
Man slut.
he is. Like, it's her, Elektra, like, he gets around. So anyway, Hawkeye joins with Captain America, but they also join Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who are the new characters from the movie. If you're not, are you familiar with them at all from the comics?
No, the only way I'm familiar with Quicksilver is just because of the X-Men movie.
Okay. They started off as X-Men villains. They were the original Brotherhood of Mutants. They worked for Magneto. It was Magneto was the leader, and it was those two, Toad and Mastermind, aka Jason Weingard, who becomes a very important character in the 70s, but as he was part of the Phoenix Saga. Toad is just a throwaway villain. He's pretty stupid. But so Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are these teenagers who are fighting other teenagers, the X-Men, and Magneto kind of has a hold on them, but they eventually leave in X-Men and then show up here in Avengers and join the team. And my theory for them joining the Avengers has always been that X-Men really wasn't very popular. I know that's hard to believe, but X-Men and Hulk both were canceled in the 60s.
I would say, didn't X-Men really didn't become popular until the 80s?
Yeah, I'd say 80s. Like, it made its comeback in the late 70s, so yeah, around that time. Yeah, the original X-Men, this is before Wolverine and Storm and all them, way before them. They weren't that popular. The funny part is, I've read a lot of the old X-Men, and they're actually not bad. it's a very different book, and there's some stupid stuff in it. Like I think Professor X is insane in those. Like he basically like there's one issue where he sends where he's dead. And like he's dead for like 3 issues, and then they find him and he's like, I faked my death to test you. See, this is a school. And it's like, dude, what is wrong with you? That's messed up. Yeah, so it's kind of stupid. But the X-Men in the 60s is kind of interesting. It's like just a group of teenagers, like Beast and Cyclops and Jean Grey were all teenagers, and it's like this dorm of superheroes. And it's interesting. I can see why it didn't last. It's something that I think would be popular now. It's like, especially like with like a lot of Japanese stuff is like that, like anime stuff, where it's like school kids with superpowers or something stupid. I think it would work better now, but back then it didn't work too well. But anyway, I think that was the whole reason of having. I've never read a confirmation of this because I've never quite understood why he had them join the Avengers, but I think that's why, is because he wanted to boost popularity of X-Men. So having 2 X-Men villains, teenage villains, but villains nonetheless, join the Avengers, I think was his attempt at doing that. And to be fair, this new team, I end up falling in love with this new team. Later on, some other characters join, like Black Widow, of course, is a guest character. Black Panther joins later. Ant-Man and Wasp come back because their comics suck. No one was buying it. And they become like standard characters. But really, this team, I really do fall in love with. I think it's actually, as weird as it is, at least in this time period, I think it was a better team than the old one with Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk. Which is, it's weird to think that, but part of it was just the writing wasn't that good too. Like with the originals, like it was just like one big commercial for the other characters' comics, and it's pretty easy to figure that out that that's what they're doing. One of my favorite things on here, speaking of when we were talking about how X-Men and Hulk were canceled, as they bring up the Hulk. And right here, if you look at this panel, like all the old Avengers are like, hey, take it easy, Captain America, blah, 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 enjoy the new team. Over here, Iron Man says, I've been asked to announce that there will be a new lineup in the ranks of the Avengers until further notice. Effective immediately, Captain America, having seniority over the others, will be the spokesman for the group, which includes Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch. They will appear in person to confirm what I have... Oh, it's like a press release. To confirm what I have said in a few minutes. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, and in this panel, you've got Iron Man talking to Captain America, or Captain America says, we'll live up to the proud tradition which you, Thor, Giant Man, and the Wasp have established. We'll never bring dishonor to our name. And Iron Man replies, I know you won't, any of you, but there is one name you omitted. When the Avengers were first formed, the Hulk was also a member. I hope that you can find him someday and convince him to become an ally again. And then in this very ominous panel, Iron Man looks at Captain America and says, despite all your skills, awesome strengths such as his could be your greatest asset. The last word of advice I can leave with you is find the Hulk. And then at the very end, you see like a picture of the Hulk, and it says, next issue, the action-packed thriller you've been waiting for, The Search for the Hulk. Here's the thing. In the next issue, the new Avengers are like, let's go find the Hulk. And then, like, they end up getting kidnapped by some, like, the Mandarin or some villain. And they never find the Hulk. Like, the Hulk's in the comic, and what happens is, once they get kidnapped, it just says, the next page starts off with, meanwhile, and you see the Hulk flying through outer space. Like, and it's like, Did I miss something? What's going on here? And they
Damn.
never like bother looking for the Hulk again. Like it's like all that setup for nothing.
Huh.
But I have yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Let's read some mail. All about the mail. Oh, excuse me. All about the Avengers. Before we wrap up this ish, we want to tell you that you ain't seen nothing yet. Dazzling Don Heck didn't have time to draw this tale, but he'll be back with us again next month to present one of the most spectacular epics he's ever illustrated. If nothing else, we can promise you a whole caboodle of surprises. And now it's time to meander over to Marvel's mirthful mailbag. Sheesh. Dear Stan and Don, I just want to tell you what I think about Avengers number 13. The page is just super. I've never seen a better one in my life, but I don't like the idea of that Count Nefaria putting the mighty Avengers in a trance so easily, and when the army attacked them, they should have stayed and fought them. I don't like the idea of the Fantastic Four being in the same book as the Avengers. It seems like Cap is always saving the others, and I don't think that is right. The way Giant Man is caught those agents. The way Giant Man caught those agents was really neat, but the best part of the book was the final panel. It was the greatest. All in all, I think you have the best mags in the business. And that's from Ted Moore in Sprayfield, Canada. And Stan replies, in what business? That's stupid. All right, here's yours. Go for it.
Alrighty here. Dear Stan and Don. We still going? Yeah, okay. Dear Stan and Don, I hate to say this, but you've goofed again. In Avengers episode... in Avengers 12, page 11, panel 1, one of the Mole Man's subterraneans is thinking what Iron Man is supposed to be saying. You have to admit that I'm right. And for my keen observation, I think I deserve no prize in Avengers number 9. Wonder Man was introduced. I think he'd be perfect as the 6th Avengers. I hope the rest of your fans agree with me. Jerry DeStonofo, Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, before you read Stan's reply, I would like to point out 2 things. I'm not sure if you're sure what the no prize is, but that's always a joke in these old ones. Is
okay.
Stanley, if someone points out like an error, Stanley's like, "Well, you get a no prize," just stupid. And then the Wonder Man thing. Wonder Man was a villain. It's funny that this kid is like, he should be an Avenger. He does become an Avenger in like the 80s or 90s or maybe 80s. I don't know. He's a weird character. He's
Wonder Man.
Wonder Man. Yes, it's stupid. His powers are kind of similar to Dr. Manhattan's from like except lesser. Like he's not as powerful as him, but pretty close.
Let's see. We called a special bulletin meeting and awarded you your no prize in abstania?
In what?
ABSEN.
Let me see. Absentia.
Oh, absentia. Okay. You'll be receiving it in no time at all. As for Wonder Man being part of an Avengers, we seem to remember that he died in that issue. Is this your suitable way of calling out our little team a bunch of deadheads? Cheers. Nice.
Seems like Stan Lee was trying to keep dead characters dead. Wonder why that didn't work out too well. Dear Stan and Don, the Avengers are just great. At first, I disliked Don Heck's art. Okay, so I was wrong. Maybe this issue isn't the first one with Don Heck. I was thinking it was, but issue 13 must be the first. Or 12, I guess. At first, I disliked Don Heck's art. But after issue 12, boy, did I change my mind. What a front page. But I thought up a new complaint. Oh, boy. People haven't changed much.
No.
I love to annoy you guys. I hate how the Avengers always call each other Avenger. That is kind of annoying. Here's a typical example of what I mean. Iron Man. I'm getting tired, Avenger. Thor. Wait, Avenger. Look, Avenger. Enter Cap. Greetings, Avenger. Giant Man. Howdy, Avenger. Now, will you guys cut it out? That's from Nathan Zimmerman in Long Island, New York. Sure, Nat. From now on, we'll have Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch saying it instead. That's a pretty funny comeback. All right, here's one for you.
Which one?
Right there.
Okay.
And then it will probably continue up there.
Alrighty. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Dear Stan and Don, the Avengers are just great. As I first disliked Don Heck's art.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, wrong one. Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
I looked at the wrong one. I read Dear Stan and Don, then I went to the wrong one. Congratulations on Avengers number 13. The Castle of Count Nefaria was one of the most marvelous stories I've ever seen. I think that Count Nefaria is a good villain and hope to see him again, but not too often. Overexposure of a villain often ruins him. What I would really like to see more of is Magia.
The Magia. I'm
okay.
sorry. Stan Lee was too afraid to write Mafia because he thought they would come after him, so he changed the F to a G. And then realized, like, that's so stupid, but go on.
And in it's sinister agents. To tell the truth, I prefer them to scores of the costume supervillains and such. Hope there are more out there who feel this way. David Zurek of Detroit, Michigan. We'll let you know as soon as the next mail arrives, Dave. As far as Count Nefaria, he's a surprise villain in one of the Marvel's mags on sale during the month of April. It's not Avengers, but we will tell you which it is. So the least you can do is buy every title we publish and try to find him. Hint, it's not kind of cult outlaw either. Kid Colt Outlaw. Okay.
Special note. Many of you have written to say that the Marvel mags in your town sell out too rapidly and you have trouble finding them. Only you can solve that earth-shaking problem. If enough of you tell your magazine dealers how much you want Marvel's marvelous mags, and if enough of you tell your dealers to display the Marvel masterpieces right up front and to order an extra large supply so there'll be plenty to go around, your dealer should start getting the message after a while. So what, nag the store owners? So it's up to you. In the immortal words of Irving Forbush, be sure to tell your dealer, make mine Marvel. Irving Forbush is the mascot of the Marvel, the MMMS. I forget what it is now. We did a whole episode of it. We need to do another one on it because it was really good. But Irving Forbush looked like this kid who wore a frying pan as a helmet. It was stupid. Here's one. Dear Stan and Don, in a recent letters page in Avengers, I saw a letter criticizing Captain America. I decided that I would write you on that. I think that he is great. And the thing that made me maddest was that it was a girl doing it. What a dame. How would they like it if we criticized Millie the model or Patsy Walker? Wow. Holy crap. Oh, it was a different time. So I made a notion that girls should stop. Wait, no, it wasn't a different time. It's very similar today. Let me finish. So I made a notion that girls should stop griping and stick to Millie. Do I hear a second on that notion? Oh, but here's Stan Lee. We'll second it, Johnny. The more fabulous females that buy Millie the model, the better we like it. So long as they don't stop buying our adventurous mags as well. This one time we know we won't have to ask you to write and let us know what you think, what you thought of this ish. We're expecting a flood. Oh, this is a whole nother. Okay. We're expecting a flood of exciting mail as soon as it goes on sale. Some of you will threaten never to read another Marvel mag if we don't bring the old lineup back immediately. That's funny. He's talking about like Thor and them. Others will say we've pulled off the greatest triumph since the Berlin airlift. Wow, this is old. And there are sure to be the usual letters telling us we forgot to dot an I somewhere. Anyway, as usual, we'll print the most interesting opinions we receive, and when we finish tallying up the results, you can be sure we'll be more mixed up than ever. Uh, do you want to read one more?
No, I'll.
Do you get the idea?
Yes.
I'd
So,
say so.
yeah, if you want to hear what we dish on Avengers, yeah, definitely go over to reggiestate.com. Look for podcast number 10.
Definitely. Well, Reggie, thanks for being on the show, and thank you, viewers, for making this all happen. Have a good night.